Hello, Rose. Thank you for coming in today. We're going to be talking a little bit about your involvement with 40 Days for Life and praying outside the abortion centre. Before we do that, maybe just to start with, could you just tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi Isabel. My name's Rose. I work as a dentist in Birmingham. I'm also a wife and a mum of three.
Lovely. And have you always been pro-life, Rose? Is this something important to you and your family? Or?
It is now, but not really before. I've not always been pro-life. I've kind of fallen into it.
Okay, go on then. Tell me how you fell into it.
It was kind of being in the right place at the right time. So we were expecting our third child and feeling very thankful and joyful for the blessing of another child. And at church, there was a pulpit announcement about the 40 Days for Life. And I decided between me and God that I would give thanks by trying to go out and help other women who were also pregnant, in the same situation. And that's how I decided to attend my first vigil.
Wow. So at this point, were you not sure whether you were for or against abortion? Was it something you had thought about, or?
I didn't have an opinion either way. I didn't really see the need at that time because it was not something that was overtly relevant or close to me in my life at that time. And I'd never had any experience of it. And no one generally talked about it in my circles. So I was very new to it.
I think that's actually really common, isn't it? And I think particularly for us women, it can be quite difficult if people don't talk about it. Then often we don't even think about it because that is how we sometimes process our thoughts through talking. Yeah. So I know for a lot of us that we're not talking about it. We're not even really thinking about the issue until sometimes it really affects us.
Yeah.
And then we've got to make that decision. So I think, like you're saying, that's quite a common experience. So what was your first impression then, Rose, taking part in the campaign?
It was relief because I was kind of in the background. I was they made sure that I was with an experienced vigil goer, and I just had to be in the background praying. And being passive with regards to approaching women or giving out advice. That for me was my comfort zone. That was all I was really prepared to do at first. And then watching and seeing how the more experienced participants interacted gives you a little bit of insight of what's involved. And after going a couple of times, it really isn't that daunting anymore. Mm.
And is there a moment that you actually think you became fully pro-life? Because I know you are now. Is that something that happened gradually, or?
I think because being part of a vigil, you need to know, I for one need to know what it's about, what it involves, and if there's questions, how am I going to answer those questions? So I did go into looking further into abortion and things surrounding it, questions about it, difficult questions that people might pose to support abortion, and how am I going to answer those questions? So once I committed to the vigil, I then went into listening to speakers and finding out information off my own back, really. And then it was just snowballed after that. Once you find out a little bit, you want to find out a little bit more, and you want to find out all the rest of it as well that comes with it, because you can't really do it by half.
And I know your whole family has got involved now, haven't they, Rose? Your husband, and you brought your children along.
That's right. Well, as I said, we were pregnant with our third. And so the little boys were curious about, where mummy was going and why mummy was going. And so explaining it to them at that tender age was quite easy because I was a living pregnant woman, and they were going through the development of the baby with me. And, when they came to the realization that not all mothers want to keep their babies, I think that was a profound moment. And they both decided, along with my husband, we'll come out and we'll come and pray with you for the babies.
I think there's something really beautiful and special about that, a family praying together there, and that in itself can be a really great witness and a great help for people who are maybe struggling alone, to have that support of a family and who are looking after children and know the difficulties of parenthood and understand that firsthand.
Absolutely.
So have there been any difficult moments for you then, Rose? I mean, I know you sort of said that your first experience seemed to go quite smoothly. Has that always been the case, or?
With the local abortion clinic, we've had some interactions with the residents, and so that has been difficult at times. When we moved away from the abortion clinic, there was a moment when my friend and I were praying outside the church, and the disposal van, I suppose you'd call it, drove by with the fetal remains. And because our vigil was the same hour each week on the same day, we would see the van drive by each time we were at the vigil. So that was quite a profound moment for both of us for this vigil. And it made it all the more apparent to us the need for us to be there and to be a voice for those voiceless little ones going by. So that was quite difficult for both of us because we were both emotional and quite distraught.
It makes it very real, doesn't it, when you see something like that? And in a way, how sad that it's become such a normal thing for people just going about their everyday work as they see it, where they're disposing of the parts of little children, and that's just being driven through the neighbourhood,
and it's just okay.
Yeah. So we should be moved by that, and it's really great that there's somebody there marking that with their prayers and praying for all those children and all those mums and dads that have lost their children. What about good moments then, Rose? Any positive experiences that have uplifted you?
I think the one that I always tell people about, but I've not been doing it for long, is probably the biggest moment for the Birmingham campaign, which I was fortunate enough to be part of. So I think I started in the January of 2019 when it was really frosty. I remember icicles on the wall and thinking, what am I doing here? But soon after, I think it was that December, after the campaign, you invited us to the Christmas celebration and gave us the wonderful news that the clinic had closed down, or had closed down, and it was one of the biggest and busiest abortion centres in the UK. And that news was just mind-blowing, the power of prayer and how much prayer had been gone on, for years outside that clinic. That was it. That did it for me.
Yeah, that was such a powerful moment. And I think, like you say, you'd been praying there for a year. Some people had been praying there for decades. I know people had been praying there long before 40 Days for Life started. And I felt we were kind of standing on the shoulders of giants with some of them. Some of them had been such persistent prayers there. I know for myself, the first year that I went there, I don't remember a single baby being saved on my slot, and I was really just being driven by kind of faith alone, that I knew my prayers must be having some results. And then the next year, the amount of saves that I heard about and was part of. So sometimes there's seasons of success when you're seeing it, and seasons that might seem to be a bit drier, but God's still working in them, and you just have to really trust in those times.
And even if you don't get a response outside the clinic or where you are, you always give us encouraging pieces of information about interactions that have happened after, a vigil participant has been there. So it's kind of, you're there for an hour, but the results are ongoing. And if it results in, a baby being saved, then that hour lasts a lifetime for someone. So it really is amazing.
That's so true, and I can think of some really lovely conversations that people have had since, for instance, going home on the bus on the way home from the abortion centre. Or there was one woman who said she had to get a taxi there because her car had broken down or something. And I think she had to phone up about 6 different taxi drivers because none of them really wanted to take her to the abortion centre. And she realised afterwards it's because they thought she was going for an abortion and they all had reservations about it. And you sort of realise how many supporters there are of the pro-life position and who also have concerns about abortion for various reasons, and we'll show that in various ways. But there's loads of really encouraging moments, and I've certainly had them. They're not all mums changing their mind or people coming to us who are suffering after an abortion that we're able to help. There's loads of other just really fruitful conversations that you have that
of all the different people who play a part in bringing about, the final event. So if a taxi driver's not willing to drive, then maybe that's the only lift that the lady will get, and maybe she won't go.
Well, yeah, and also maybe more importantly, there might be some other person who can step in to help her. I mean, I know quite a few of those taxi drivers who actually used to have leaflets in their car, and they would give them to women so that they could learn about support and help that was on offer to them. And that's so important, because what we really want is, it's more than just not having the abortion. Is we want those women to have a real alternative, isn't it? And that's the important thing, to make sure that there's real practical help offered to every woman so that she doesn't feel she needs an abortion anymore, and doesn't feel that's her only option. Last question then, Rose. If there's anyone listening or watching today who's thinking, like you were thinking when you were pregnant with your little one, maybe I'd like to give something back. Maybe I'd like to help mums who are maybe not as fortunate as me or as struggling just like me. What would you say to them?
I definitely think it's a good thing to do. And my husband always says to me, if you're thinking about doing a good thing, don't hesitate. If you're thinking about doing a bad thing, hesitate. This is definitely a good thing. So I would say don't hesitate and stop thinking, just do it.
There you have it from Rose. If you're considering this, thinking about it, stop thinking and just go out and do it. We need more people like Rose and her family to witness to the beauty of life and to offer real alternatives to women or couples who are in those difficult situations, going to abortion centres. So please consider joining your nearest 40 Days for Life campaign or other pro-life vigil that's happening outside the abortion centres. If there's not one happening, maybe you could be the one to get it started. So look on the 40 Days for Life website or get in touch with us at March for Life and we can help you do just that. Thank you for joining us.